This is Gary Gibson. I'm going to read an excerpt from my book, A Thought of Infinite Being. Laura and Victor journeyed a few miles searching for a data port or station link to splice into on the way around the Mubutag structure that seemed to have an Earth-like natural landscape of gently rolling hill country. Escarpments between vast cylindrical extrusions occasionally sectioned the surface. On closer examination of one of the first section dividers encountered, they discovered the entire artificial construct to be a quantum computer built with elementary unlimited input-output access. Plugging in to make a brief inquiry, the Mubutag structure was revealed as largely constructed to be a planet-sized quantum computer object of superconducting crystal and metal components formed as a minor tetrahedron with land and an artificial gravity driven by dark matter, convecting current with the artificial intellect of the tetrahedron managing gravostat controls for the benefit of humans. The Mubutag was one of the countless secretions spawned from the primary England device spanning hundreds of light years over the core of the hidden universe of the Imperial Criminal Empire. The secretions were engineered within the England machine, inducting virtual particles from a limitless Federal Reserve of criminal enterprises, emptying out, looting the contents of black holes from an infinite number of universes. Flipped into white holes spouting energy and mass to the England machine swag bag, coded secretions were structures useful for processing stolen worlds and even galaxies, as well as manufacturing utopias for nominally loyal chief criminal executive officers of the criminal empire, emanated and compiled like coral reefs in space. Streets of Corporatopia built on secretions in the hidden universe were paved with yellow bricks of gold superconductors that added more energy value with the energetic compression of every single step trod upon them. Each CEO had a mansion with endless rooms, visited by servants forever enslaved who, nearing death, had their brains and minds transferred in cyber dogs that would process the brain over time into an ossified neural architecture in the dog's ass, replacing flesh with algorithmically programmed molecular morphology to carry on customary stability until a warranty service given to a CEO expired at the CEO's death. CEOs were never troubled by the sight of another structure upon the vista of their habitation unless they deemed it so. Their executive servants discovered countless new methods to destroy the political self-determinism of individuals and nations on indigent planets deemed worthy of having patentable ideas stolen. The marketplace of ideas of targeted worlds were closed down, and new ideas restricted to disclosure to just government control in order for new inventions to trickle up exclusively to the Grand Office of Maudlib, the reliable inter-universal operator, coordinating relocation of inventions and wealth to the safe control of the Imperial Criminal Empire through Serenity. The feat of Victor and Laura continued processing mathematical configurations to push them along the cylindrical quantum computer infrastructure at a rate of speed sufficient to move them through the labyrinth of tubes toward the center of the structure and a side opposite that of origin. Breathable atmosphere was maintained around them, with instructions from the mathematical feat to the outer layer of quantum calculations reshaping molecules. They learned enough to skim virtual particles and directly fabricate a serviceable relocator vessel near their destination that would be utilized for transport to the farthest of the England secretions. The Mubutag structure pseudo-planet was building another hidden universe within the present one, apparently purposed toward undermining the security of the dwindling world's region of the normal universe. You know, Laura, Victor said, if we continue the open patent system and bring in as many ideas as are created by the thought of anyone, regardless of poverty or plenty, we will be concentrating intellectual capital and make easier targets for the Imperial Criminal Empire. Victor, there isn't anything we can do about it, at least in the dwindling worlds, except to stop the thefts and leaks. Getting patentable ideas to market as soon as possible is necessary if we are to keep ahead of destructive environmental challenges or stop destructive interference from infinite universes and dimensions that may conflict by design or accident with our own. Obviously, we cannot regard other universes as being on the same time metric as ours, since universal space-time is self-standing in relation to the thermodynamic spaces and configurations for themselves, not for other universes. Thought might occur at some future or past time. New inventions created a priori to resolve circumstances that don't exist yet, and may keep our universe and the sentience in it alive. Humans may have a future instead of being haplessly rolled up by whatever concern crashes into it or drops in from higher dimensions. Laura, I have wondered about the relation, simultaneous events in different universes, or if there is even such a thing. The life of a universe is like that of a campfire that may start with a small combustion event and burn up its wood supply until it finally is a thermodynamic spent pile of ashes. The past and future of the campfire don't actually exist. Only the present state of the campfire exists. If our universe is 13.2 billion years old, then the universe fire has burned that long, yet it is always in the present, and the past is lost except as Shannon entropy conserved data someplace. If an event occurs in our universe, for example, the Last Judgment, that may occur circa 3400 Anno Domini based on my reading of the Revelation chapter 19 through 21, then that event could occur simultaneously with the present state of other universes existing on that day. Universes that exist and conclude before or start after the 13.2 billion year window of the theoretical life of this universe could not exist concurrently and experience any awareness of the Last Judgment event presently through interdimensional relocator technology as a simultaneous event. Just the present live state of the universes exists, some before and some after those of the original human universe, though line cone images of them may be observed for trillions of years, theoretically. General and special relativity theories complicate calculations of the relations of interuniversal space-time positions. They are too much for me at any rate. I'm thankful that entangled energy as universes are not in uncollapsed form at all possible locations of extraspatial infinity and eternity. Laura said, "We will advance all of those inventions and grant patents that become non-exclusive after 3 years with 10% royalties to patent holders in perpetuity. This is the best available way to keep new ideas in production from being buried under exclusivity and suppression from manipulators and censors of the marketplace of ideas." As the pair neared the space relocator they had fabricated remotely, they discovered aspects of the power of the planet-sized quantum computer. It began collapsing waveforms of infinite numbers around them. Long ago, the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics developed a Schrödinger wave function collapse paradigm that became surpassed by the more accurate Everett many-worlds paradigm. In the Everett account, the wave function never collapsed. Instead, a new reality was branched to instead of a waveform collapse. The Everett paradigm might be compared to that of a metaverse existing for God with every possible universe differentiation, even by a single quark actually existing. That was quite a different scenario from the venerable Copenhagen interpretation with a quantum particle at all possible locations reduced to just a single place when observed with the collapse of the wave function. A grounding of the infinite light of locations and velocity of a single particle. A wave is collapsed to a particular point. For me at least, finite zero-dimension points of phenomenality among uncollapsed natural infinities is a paradox. Laura and Victor slowed their pace when they were within 1,700 meters of the virtual relocator vessel. Victor said, "Let us yield a little time for the relocator vessel to recognize us and merge its being for itself with our mind fields in themselves and for others." "Sure, Victor. Consider this. Logically, according to some multiverse theories, there may be an infinite number of occurrences of everything possible in every possible universe. Perhaps the Schrödinger wave function requires transuniversal realizations of every possible element of every possible universe, manufacturing them as if it were in every possible time and stage of existence a priori. Instead of each sentient individual having a finite number of doppelgangers of himself within an infinite number of universes, everyone would have an infinite number of doppelgangers and various gradations of partial doppelgangers in universes with degrees of variations. That would, in the abstract, be like an infinite series multiplying itself infinitely at every point and infinitely from each point, compounded, besides possibly multiplying infinities and corresponding universes faster than infinite universe series can be logically increased. That may be a reason why God, if he chose to do so, may have limited the phenomena of being to just one universe that would be populated with human individuals. Though a computer program may generate infinite series, naturally it is simple for a programmer to curtail infinities for processing throughput. God may have infinite capability to contain all possible infinities and wave functions associated with them, yet choose to truncate them. As Alpha and Omega of all being, God foreknows all creation. Nothing mechanical concerning constructions or time and being are more than contingent being that he may decide to actualize for others. The actualization of all infinities for a metaverse may be abbreviated as a mathematician may abbreviate formulas instead of writing them all out. Universes may manifest phenomenally as needed to actualize logical continua and disappear when the time spotlight moves on. If there is an infinite quantity of every time in the mind of God actualized in his metaverse, then it may follow that some elements of his infinite qualities of perfection, varieties, quantities, and experiences of perfection present to and through sentient beings through infinite universes. Imperfections may be reciprocals of perfection, as night follows day and darkness yields into dawn. Creations of forms and events, persons and things, may be as necessary as the infinite numbers of fractions between whole numbers. God selects what forms or numbers he chooses to populate a universe with in order to design a universe that would accomplish his will. He may mask some of the fractions and permit selections that work within quantum value settings for the stabilized quantum fields and the design parameters, physical contents. That is the infrastructure of the steady state of the macro-collapsed entangled material universe. Sure, the selections would be a factor of the predetermination of history. The ability to create more advanced sets with specially selected elements may be useful for fine-tuning the subjective experience and objective world for itself that contingent sentient minds experience. Maybe one of the reasons for doing so would be to build the character of sentience in a predetermined course of experience. Sentience is one of the ironic tones of imperfection for a monistic metaverse that fundamentally differentiates individual objects as perceptions of collapsed wave function objects, noteworthy because of differentiation from other collapsed wave function field differences around them. Sentience is finite and imperfect, phenomenal and temporal. Omniscience is perfect and above time. It is the one set of all sets of infinities in itself. Pluralism is a function or construction of definition by sentient beings within a monistic field for itself. God, though, personifying the trinity of three persons in one, is the initial symmetry-breaking monistic plural sentience, omniscient before the existence of time. The fields of God that contain a metaverse are barely ponderable. Even the metaverse is challenging for sentience or AI to define contingent beings as we are. Victor said, "Well, Laura thought, one thing we may know, there could be an infinite number of hidden universes with criminal doppelgangers like those populating this one, trying to steal and own all the intellectual capital in the universe, in the metaverse. What if they are working together, synergizing their criminal powers? Indeed, Victor, what if there are an infinite number of anti-criminal doppelgangers working together to undo the imperial criminal empire's work?" Victor replied, "You know that a Hegelian might speculate that God is trying to realize himself or to realize perfect sentience by generating an infinite number of universes with infinite tools to actualize perfection. That is, to actualize perfection, every possibility may need to be made to exist as actuality, because anything less might be considered to be incomplete and imperfect." "A Hegelian might," Laura answered, "yet that implies God is imperfect, and the metaverse was created in time and God with it. Then one encounters the problem of temporality and of an infinite universe existing in one direction in time rather than from eternity. A metaverse always imperfect and incomplete, cycling through a portion of non-space eternally imperfect in one direction without generating sentience capable of comprehending it to own, delimit, or end it. The logic of the Trinity is more believable. No scientific idea is logically falsifiable with absolute certainty, Laura. The premises could always be in error. Then again, there is the problem of the criterion to consider. That is, the Lao Tzu conundrum. A hummingbird flies into one's living room for a moment and disappears. It is reasonable to speculate that it flew in through an open door or window. Then one is informed by a gamer that one is in virtual reality and to get back to the task of winning. If the wave function explaining quantum particles wasn't falsifiable, some wouldn't regard it as valid physics. So if the criterion is incorrect concerning reality, a description of the quantum world when one isn't observing it, or alternatively when one it is, may be an invalid question made from an ontologically wrong paradigm. Faith is a good way to relate to God for a mortal human, since nothing can be certain. Probabilities of outcomes may be made, of course, sometimes with a very high likelihood of being a valid return on a proposition. Truth tables may be composed and made implicitly irrelevant because of the circumstance in which the truth table exists. Particles in steady-state physics may exist with observation because massless particles have slowed in a Higgs field to sublight speed. A Copenhagen interpretation might regard the quantum world as not existing when not observed, or irrelevant to consider it observed. Consider the predisposition to incorrect interpretation. Waves may be the normal state of particles, are inducted from them with observation temporally, yet the wave may continue as the true normative state. The downloading to observable particles is the anomalous breaker of the normal condition. How could it appear as if it were unobserved with characteristics of an observed wave? Why a pure field phenomena of energy should appear as mass with particles is a question that leads me to wonder why quantum fields should host differences within them that yield solid-state mass. Laura, It occurs to me that quantum interference like that of the double-slit experiments may be instructive for getting answers to questions of how quantum interference occurs in the many worlds multiverse paradigm. There are issues of infinite quantum entanglements with steady states of subluminal mass in 4 dimensions comprising universes. Why shouldn't quantum interference and even universal interference arise to form concentrations of mass across infinite numbers of dimensions? What, Victor, do you mean interference patterns generating transdimensional black holes? Well, not exactly, Laura. Derivatively speaking, what wind of spirit arises to trouble waters of non-space in the beginning? Why should an initial transuniversal primordial field have differences with the first cause? Perfect symmetries and balances, perfect scale, extension without point of origin, a word spoken into the darkness.